order of business will be a motion to allow the chair to sign necessary documents during the summer. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Yes.
Second, third.
Somebody? Can you hear? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? My screen is very strange. I
All right.
have somebody in a
Let me tell Richard,
red shirt, and
Yeah.
that's about all.
the red shirt is
There, now I
Leon.
have.
Yeah,
Yep.
you have Leon, and the phone number is Dave Durfee. So that
Oh,
David sent me an email that that's his phone number. So I see Dave Durfee present, you're present, Susan's present, Carrie is here, Leon's here, Tori's here, Jackie and Fran. So,
Very good. Okay, that's very good. Are there any other, I'm going to reverse the general order here. Are there any other issues, Jim, that we should bring up before we go into the three
no, you
presentations?
no, you can proceed.
Very good. Then, as you know, this meeting, the purpose, thank you. As you know, this meeting, the purpose of this meeting is to approve from MAU the agenda. This then goes to full SVSU board after we approve it, then they approve it, and then my understanding is that we go through it and sign it. So let's go through them one by one.
Yeah, Tim, the
First
Tech
is-
Center is going to vote on Monday or Tuesday of next week. Southwest Tech will vote too, and then it'll be completely approved by all
Okay.
boards.
The document is signed and becomes official. The first issue that we're going to bring up is the teachers' collective bargaining agreement. I didn't see any information sent out on it for those that weren't in the negotiation process. Were things sent out?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
and I've
Very
just
good.
I've just let Nick share my screen, so he's going to put it up on the screen for everyone to see.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nick, would you just give a brief summary of the
Yep, he's prepared to do that,
highlights
Tim.
here, not all the language,
Yep.
but the highlights before we vote.
I will
Thank
go
you.
through. Yeah. Okay, so this is a proposal for a 3-year contract through 2024. This was deliberately, as you'll see when we go over ESP, offset from a 2-year ESP contract so that the boards and their committees don't have to negotiate 2 contracts in the same year as we had done for the last couple of years. So the first item, Appendix A, which is the salary schedule, which was also attached, and I can share on the screen if need be. The agreement that was made was to grant step plus a 1.5% increase each year for the 3 years, as well as to move step 21 from a 3/4 step to a full step, meaning a teacher who moves on to step 21 will not receive what was essentially a $1,166 increase. They will receive a full step increase of $1,578, I believe it is now. So 1.5 plus step each year, plus that one change in year 1. Appendix B is the hourly rate that's used for various things, including summer school, after-school committees that have payment, essentially anything that a teacher is paid for hourly outside of their regular contract. This had been $32.75 for many years, and so what was negotiated was a 3-year increase, $35 in year 1, $38 in year 2, and $40 in year 3. Article 8.14 is to form a collaborative committee with association and administrative representatives to review staff safety. Article 10.5 is to provide for a joint committee to administer the sick bank, which grants sick days to teachers who have exhausted their time but have a medical need for additional time. So that will be made up of 50% administration and 50% association members going forward. 23.1 simply modifies the language to to reflect that we will no longer print out individual contracts, copies of the contract for every teacher, but will instead put the contract on the website for all to see there. 25.4 simply aligns the contract language with the newly approved teacher professional growth model, the new evaluation system. So the timelines in the contract reflect those timelines that are in the evaluation document. 26.26, it changes the timeline that administration, mainly human resources, creates and it distributes the seniority list, the length of service list, as well as the certification list for teachers, so that it does not overlap with the granting of contracts, which caused issues in the past, and now it will provide for a much smoother timeline. 29.18 provides a stipend for a designated teacher in charge for any building that doesn't have an associate principal or assistant principal, so that a principal may leave the building and can make that designated teacher in charge essentially their their teacher in charge while they're gone, and it provides a stipend of $1,200 for that. 29.23 and 29.24 clarify some language around duties assignments, when teachers can be assigned duties, how they are selected for duties, and clarifies that teachers who work in multiple buildings on a given day should not have a duty assigned on that day due to travel. 29.26 adds language regarding a new collaborative committee to review elementary prep time, the prep time that elementary teachers receive throughout the day or the week. Article 29.31, this was language that was actually clarified through a grievance process that we're inserting into the contract regarding how teachers at the high school are compensated when they teach an additional block above and beyond their regular schedule for a semester. 29.32D does essentially the same thing for teachers at Southwest Tech who agree to teach an additional 60-minute course. They are paid a stipend, and that stipend amount is increasing to $3,200. And finally, 30.1B serves to clarify, following the contract negotiations for 2017-2019, I believe, there was a portion of the salary schedule that became grayed out for the bachelor's plus 15, and bachelor's plus 30 columns. What that means is once teachers reach a certain step, they needed to advance to either master's or bachelor's plus 45 in order to continue to receive step movement. So this language clarifies which steps those are and when people will reach it, so that people understand when they're going to hit that grayed out portion of the schedule. So that is all of the changes. I'll briefly put the actual salary schedules on screen just so folks can see them. Each one of them represents a 1.5% increase over the prior year. You will also see that the steps have been renumbered to start at step 1, whereas previously they had started at step 4 due to the elimination of the entry-level steps over a number of years. So now our steps start at step 1, which makes sense. And that is everything.
Well, that's very good. The salary scale is certainly very easy to see and understand. And I think one of the big benefits of this contract is that it is a 3-year contract rather than a 1-year contract. For the last 2 years, we've been working with 1-year contracts, which is a time-consuming thing. Are there any questions on any of the things that Nick very clearly has outlined?
I just had one question. What are we gonna, was there anything added in?
Motion to accept the teacher's contract.
Tim, you have one question from Tori?
Added in. Well, when you say added in, there were certainly a lot of things added into the different articles that were presented. I don't really understand the question.
I didn't finish the question. I was just asking anybody or Nick, was there anything put in about if we end up in another situation where we're teaching online all the time? I say we, but...
No, there wasn't anything about that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to accept the teacher's contract.
So moved.
Fran?
Second.
You have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those, any questions? Any further questions? Are there any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. We'll move on to the ESP contract. Is Nick
get a better
going to
computer
give a summary also?
Yes, he is. Go ahead. Go ahead, Nick.
Just finding my document here.
Thank you.
There we go. Okay. All right. So same format. We'll go through each quickly, and if you have any questions, please let me know. So the first thing, it's a 2-year contract. So as I said before, so that we are no longer negotiating both contracts in the same year. This will be a 2-year contract ending June 2023. What was agreed to on salary is step plus 1.5% for each year. In addition, as you'll see later, and kind of part of that compensation agreement was the addition of dental coverage, which we calculated at between 1 and 1.5%. So that was factored in to the overall increase. In lieu of a larger increase, they elected the dental coverage, and we'll talk about that. Second item is replace all instances of paraeducator with paraprofessional to reflect, the updated terminology that we use in the job description and when referring to that position. The recognition clause, believe it or not, we still have the individual elementary districts recognized in the contract because we have not rewritten the contract since the 2017-2019 contract. So this would replace all instances with Southwest Vermont Union Elementary School District. 8.6 is the same language you saw on the teacher's contract. This is the collaborative committee to discuss issues of staff safety. So that will involve support staff members as well as teachers. 8.7 establishes that CPI training will be provided to new hires as soon as possible, as well as documentation at the time of hire regarding some de-escalation tips, strategies, and other important information. 11.3, the first line is the change. We're modifying the existing language to reflect that the superintendent may change the assignment of an employee but may not assign them to a different employer. That previously read employee unit, which nobody really seemed to know what that meant. So we changed it to employer to mean that you could not be moved from the MAU to the SVU ESD or to the SVSU. So you have to stay within your employee district, essentially. 11.6 provides that any changes to job descriptions will be sent to the association for comment, and that newly hired employees will be assigned to a classification and a group specified in Appendix A, which is the pay schedule. That's existing practice, and so we're just codifying that. 11.8, previously paraprofessionals, when they covered for a teacher, would be paid an additional $2 per hour. That was increased to $3 per hour. 11.10 reflects that anytime a paraprofessional covers for an intensive special needs specialist, they will receive that higher rate of pay. This was typically our practice, but it is, excuse me, I'm not scrolling, but it is codifying that in the contract. Article 15.6 was also in the teacher's contract, and this is to solidify that there is a joint committee administering the sick bank made up of 50% association and 50% administrative. 16.5 grants not just the superintendent, which was existing, but the assistant superintendent or the assistant director of the Southwest Tech, in the absence of the superintendent or the director, the ability to grant unpaid leave of absences that wouldn't otherwise be presented to the board. Article 18, the first two changes simply reflect that we are abiding by the statewide health insurance agreement, and so no longer need to have specific health insurance language in our contract, as we simply refer to the statewide agreement. 18.4 is the earlier mentioned dental coverage. So this is the same dental coverage that is provided to teachers at the same cost sharing. That is that the board will pay 90% of a single plan, and the employee can elect either that single plan, a two-person plan, or a family plan, and pay the difference, that whatever is not covered by the employer. Article 18.6 just clarifies some existing language. When a support staff member leaves after signing their contract, but prior to December 1st of the following year, they owe the district back for a portion of the employer's health insurance premium costs. And while that was an established practice, the equation for calculating that was not in the support staff contract, it was only in the teacher contract. So we simply copied it over from the teacher contract and inserted it into the para contract for the support staff contract for clarity. Article 19.6 clarifies that STEP is granted only in years in which it's negotiated. The contract language technically said that STEP would be granted every year. The most recent contract for 2020-2021 had no STEP granted. It was a flat dollar increase, so we all agreed that it made sense to clarify that STEP needed to be negotiated. We removed 19.9 because it referenced the ability of a staff member to continue health insurance after they left employment, which is not an option. Blue Cross Blue Shield does not allow that, so that was removed. And 20.4 was also removed because it was no longer relevant given the statewide health insurance agreement that establishes who gets what coverage, and so we no longer needed to clarify anything on that front. And then 20.5, previously, an employee had to cover at a higher pay rate position, for example, a maintenance employee covering for the floor person for 5 days before receiving the higher rate of pay. That had not been our practice in reality, so we updated the language to reflect that you received the higher pay rate for any days worked at that position. So those are all of the changes. I can share the pay schedule as well, just so you see it. And it simply reflects the 1.5% increase to each pay rate in each year. And so nothing super exciting.
So any questions or a motion?
Well, just one second, Leon, do you have any comments on the general contract? You were the negotiator.
No more than this is really what we will. Accomplish, and we got all the things we will.
I make a motion to approve.
Carrie Bond has her hand up.
Okay, thank you. Carrie?
I put my hand up, but I do have a
Carrie
question.
Bond?
Can you hear him?
I can hear you,
Excuse
Carrie.
me?
Okay. I just had a question about 18.6. Can Nick or somebody, can you go over that? It just,
Yes.
I don't understand why employees would have to pay back for their health insurance. I don't understand how that works. Can you explain that a little bit?
So essentially, when an employee signs a contract to return for the following year, their health insurance for July and August is paid for, essentially by the district until they return in the fall. So if an employee agrees to return and then leaves before the start of the school year, the district has essentially paid for 2 months of health insurance coverage for them. And so this provides that the district can recoup those costs for that health insurance premium.
It's a practice that has gone on. It's just, oftentimes we're chasing that payment. But
Yeah, in reality, we don't often get it, but it's they can essentially. So if you had somebody on a family plan for those 2 months, the district could be paying, as much as $5,000 or $6,000 for their health insurance, and then for them not to return to employment in the fall, the district would be out that money.
Carrie, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that answers my question. So it doesn't matter if advantage of their health benefits being paid. Okay, got it. Thank you.
I'd like to make a
Okay.
motion to approve.
Second. I'll second it.
Any discussion on that? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Say aye. Does that come through?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Abstentions? Very good. All right, that takes care of that. Now we go on to the third and final presentation, and that has to do with the non-union wage increase proposal. Nick, are you gonna go over that?
Yes, he is. Yep. Nick, we have a recommendation for you.
Thank you.
So, yeah, we'll make a recommendation for non-union wage increases. What we do when we look at that, we look at both internally, we look at the settlements for ESP, teacher, as well as the contract for administrators. As we discussed, our ESP contract settled at what essentially is 2.5% on the pay piece, plus a 1 to 1.5% on dental. Our teachers settled at about 3.4%. And our administrator contract has a 2.5% increase plus their step. It averages out to about a 3% each year. We also look at resources like Willis Towers Watson and other, reports and things of that nature to determine what other industries, what trends we're seeing for pay increases for the current year. So when we look at what's happening in 2021, we're seeing 2.5 to 3% increases in most industries. Last year, we obviously saw kind of suppressed increases in the 1 to 2% range. So with all that information in mind, the recommendation that we're making for non-union staff increases is a 3% for the coming school year.
Nick, would you give us an idea of how many people are in that?
SU-wide, it's roughly 100. Within the MAU, it's actually very few. It's primarily SVSU employees who work out of central office or other, behavior specialists and professional positions, OTs, PTs, things like that. But within MAU, it's actually very few non-union employees. Your security officers, some behavior positions. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. But it's not a lot that are covered under the MAU contract. It's mostly SVSU. But we try to do a uniform increase across.
And are those people also covered by the same insurance?
Yes.
Yes, the statewide agreement
Yes.
applies to all employees.
Program or not?
Yes, they are, Tim. They're all
Are they
covered.
just a straight wage?
I don't think I caught the last part. Yes, they are covered
Are
under the
there
same health
any
insurance.
other questions concerning this contract?
No.
Excuse me?
None.
He said no questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions?
They haven't-
So we need a vote on you need a vote.
Jackie?
Yes, I make the motion
We
to,
have a motion.
yes,
I'll second it.
Jackie?
yes.
Jackie made the motion and Leon seconded it.
Vote on the non-union employee. Except we have a motion and a second.
Yes, now, I call for the question.
Very good. Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Everybody, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oppo- I'll try it again. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Opposed? All right. Abstentions? Very good. Jim, is there any other business that we should address?
There's no other business.
Okay, I guess we're all set. We've done the 3 contracts. Jim, is there any other business we should address?
No, we're good. We're all good. You can move for adjournment.
Very good. Then, just briefly, we have another meeting at 5 o'clock with the SVSU. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it.
Motion to adjourn.
So
Thank you,
moved.
Jackie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Fran.
Right, yeah,
All
that's second,
those
third.
in favor, say aye. Good, thanks.
Thank you all.
in favor?